Do you ever feel like there's something professional guitar players know that you don't know? Something that connects all the dots and completes the puzzle of the fretboard? Maybe you've been watching videos about the caged method, or learning scales, or triads, or patterns, or intervals, but you still don't feel confident moving up the neck. Now imagine if you always knew exactly where to shoot your hand up to every single time over any chord, or any chord progression. Now I've been teaching guitar for over 10 years, and if you're an intermediate player, I know that there's something that you are missing. With all these different methods of fretboard mapping, learning to play up the neck, and all these kind of tricks and things, and learning intervals. But really none of that works unless you know what the note is, where the starting spot is. The cage system won't work unless you know what note to start the cage shape on. Patterns won't work unless you know which note to start the pattern on. And scales won't work unless you know where the root note is of the scale. So I've been teaching guitar for over 10 years now, and one thing that I've learned is that there is a lot of different ways that people learn. Everybody has a different learning method that they connect with. So in this video, I'm going to show you 5 different methods for you to finally learn the notes of the guitar. I'm going to put chapters in this lesson so you can skip to each method and find the one that connects best with you. But if you're like me, you might need to use a combination of a few of these different methods to really let this stuff sink in. So check out these methods and let me know what you think in the comments, which one worked best for you. All right, so the first method is gonna be on paper. The benefit of this is you can actually do this anywhere, on a plane, in between meetings or classes. It's really convenient and it's a really fast way to learn. So essentially, this is what you're gonna try to do without looking at the note chart on the left. But let's back up and go to the beginning so you know how to start. First, you're gonna have to memorize the open strings. And if you haven't already done that, try to remember this sentence. Elephants and donkeys grow big ears. That's E-A-D-G-B-E. It's the name of the open strings. Then from there, we're gonna label the rest of the notes letters A through G going up each string in alphabetical order. Now there's a space or a fret in between every one of the letters, except B and C are right next to each other, and E and F are right next to each other. So here, E, F is right next to E, you can see that. So skip one, go to G, skip one, go to A, skip one, go to B. Now B and C, right next to each other. Skip one, go to D. Then the 12th fret will be E again. Let's go on to the next string, the A string. So skip one, go to the note B. B and C are right next to each other. Then skip one, go to D. Skip one, go to E. Now E and F are right next to each other, remember? And then keep going, so skip one, go to G, skip one, go to A, and then you're just gonna keep doing that for the rest of the strings until you get the entire chart filled out. Now these blank charts are available to download for FGA members, along with some instructions about the musical alphabet and the full note chart and some other great PDFs, as well as tabs to every one of my other YouTube lessons. So check that out, links in the description. Method 2 is probably my favorite because it brings us back to the guitar. This is the method that I personally use. We're gonna learn some key spots on the E string and the A string. And those frets are just gonna be the 3rd fret, 5th fret, 7th fret, 8th fret, and 10th fret on both strings. Say it and play it method, where you play it and say it and play it and say it. G, C, and then you go A, D, and then you go B, E, C, F, D, and G, okay? And then you can try to go in different orders, but say it and play it. If you can play full chords, then play G, C, A, D, B, E, C, F, D, and G. Now this method is great because in the future, when you start to do chord construction, it's really helpful because most of the chords you'll be playing in the future will have their root notes on the E string or the A string. We have the high E string and the low E string. If this is G, then this is G as well. So to learn the rest of the notes on the B, G, and D strings, that'll bring us into method 3, the octave method. The octave method is pretty easy. There's a couple octave shapes that you're gonna need to memorize. Essentially what we're gonna do is you're gonna take these memorized spots that you learned, like G, A, B, C, and D, and learn how to find the other notes by using octave shapes. Let's start with the note G. So the first octave shape looks like this. If here's G, you just skip over a string. So from the low E string, skipping to the D string, and then we go 2 frets up. So that's the first octave shape. Now we also know that if this note's G, then since this is the E string and this is the E string, this note's G too. So our first octave shape looks like this. okay? Next, we're gonna connect this higher part of the octave to here. And this is the other part of the first octave shape. So from here, we skip over a string again. So this is 5th fret of the D string. We're gonna skip over to the B string and go up 3 frets. This gives us our next octave, G. So our first octave shape looks like this. And then from here to there. The second octave shape will give you the notes in relationship to the A string. So let's look at the note C. So C is one of our memorized spots. Again, the first octave shape from this C is you just skip over a string and then up 2 frets. From the 3rd fret of the A string, we're going to the 5th fret of the G string. So over a string, up 2 frets. Now from here, we go over a string and up 3 frets, just like we did in the first octave shape. So if you memorize those 2 octave shapes, you should be able to figure out at least where the other notes are. And that's gonna be a big help. So that'll bring us into the next method. For all this stuff to work really smoothly, like the caged method or learning scales up the neck, you have to know what the notes are like immediately. You can't have time to like figure them out and be doing mental math in your head while you're trying to play a song. It's just not gonna work. So for that, I created a game called the Bomb Diffuser. It's a visualization exercise, and the great part about that is you don't have to have your guitar with you. This is another exercise you can do in your car, while you're sitting in a waiting room, before or after meetings or class. All right, so the Bomb Diffuser game, it goes like this. Imagine that there's a bomb that's going to go off unless you input the correct code. Now there's gonna be a clue. The clue is gonna be a note name. So the code to defuse the bomb is going to be that letter name across the 6 strings. For example, if the clue is G, so the answer to that would be like this: 3, 10, 5, 12, we're open, 8, 3. And the idea is you want to be able to input that code in less than 3 to 5 seconds. Let's try a couple examples, and then you can just do this on your own. Just pick a random letter and then see if you can go through all the strings quickly. Obviously, you don't have to time yourself, but you want to do it as quickly as possible. But in these examples, I'll have a timer counting down and see if you can get it in time. All right, number 5 is definitely the most fun, but it's gonna take a little bit of working knowledge of the notes before you can start this. I'll demonstrate it as I'm explaining it. So what you wanna do is find a backing track. The backing tracks, you can find them on YouTube all over the place for almost every song and for every genre. What you wanna look for is backing track that has the chords being highlighted like you can see here. And you just need to know what the chords are. You don't need to know what type of chord or anything else, but this is what you want to do. You want to play quarter notes of the note of the chord that's being called at the time. So it says G, and then it says A. Okay? So we're just going to play quarter notes. The first set, we're just going to play in the lowest 6th string. G, and then A. And then we're going to move to the A string and do the same thing. E. Then play G, then play A. Okay? And then after this, we're going to move over to the next string. G, A, E, G, and A. Now the next string, G string. Just play quarter notes, resist the urge to do more. Now B string. G. Then A. Now let's go to the high E string. Now G. Okay. After that, you can try to start playing different strings. like maybe using the octaves like this. Playing octaves. And just kind of skipping around, make sure you're covering each of the strings. Okay, this is a lot of fun. I'll include this backing track and this chart for FGA members at the end of this video. And thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.